everybody, this is Ashish Joseph here, coming to you with the seventh episode of The Inside World, where we talk about different growth and marketing strategies of different artists in the industry and a couple of the trade secrets that have worked well for them throughout the years. So joining me today is my very good friend Chris Jason from Chennai. Hey Chris, how is it going, man?
It's going good, quite hectic, but yeah, for the most part, pretty good.
So Chris is known as Budget Keva, but so Chris is a wonderful guitarist and he's a session musician and he deals the guitar like a pro. And when I'm looking at the first time when I met Chris, I think I've been following Chris for quite some time, but the first time when I met him was actually in Backyard.
Oh, yeah.
Backyard open mic.
Yeah.
So usually how musicians in Chennai use open mic is some people try to perform for the first time, some people try to test their material. So me and Chris were actually testing our materials in secret just to see how the crowd reacts. I think you were testing Back to One over there, is it?
Yeah, that was literally the first time I played it to an audience.
So he was testing his wonderful piece called Back to One that is streaming in YouTube. You should definitely check it out. He's done a wonderful video on that particular single of his. And when we met in Backyard for the first time, I was just coming right out of work and I just want to chill and I just want to play some music and test on something that I was working on. And Chris was the only person who had a guitar over there. So I was like, hey man, do you mind if I can borrow your guitar? And Chris was holding his Taylor guitar and people having expensive guitars like that never lend their guitars to anybody. So I'm like, bro, can I have it? They're like, yeah, sure, have it. I'm like, bro, you cool, right? Yeah, I'm cool. You cool with me tuning down your strings? Yeah, do whatever you want. So from there, my entire impression of Chris was such a wonderful, approachable person who was ready to help anybody in need. And giving that guitar to me was like, bro, like, you're such a kind soul, man. Like, I didn't expect him to lend me that guitar at that time, but that guitar was wonderful, and I had a bomb playing a lot of songs on that guitar. But Chris, I just want to thank you for just coming out to the show. It means a lot to me in terms of bringing people that I know personally to talk about their entire journey and their experiences that they've learned from their entire journey. Because when you look at an independent artist, it's not an easy journey, and takes guts and proper balls to actually make that decision and do it for the rest of your life. And Chris, I just want to start off with the first question that I have for you. Being an artist in a country like this, especially if you're an instrumentalist, there are a lot of factors that you have to consider before making that particular career choice.
True.
Right. Especially if you're from the South. And so Chris, you're a full-time musician right now and you do multiple sessions and you get featured with multiple artists. So when you were starting off and did you expect coming into this stage of your career?
Only once I was like maybe 35 or more.
But
26 now and I didn't expect.
Congrats on this entire achievements that you made.
Thank you.
So I just want to understand from your thought process, like when you made that choice post your BTech, like every other musicians that are out there, how did you make that decision to actually be a full-time musician?
Okay. So back when I was in school, I don't know, somewhere along the line, I was learning guitar. I was learning it as a hobby. Like that was my thing, so to speak. But then somewhere along the line, I got it into my head that, doing music full time as a career would be really cool, would be a blessing to do, would be like really nice.
Yeah.
I didn't have that many expectations or something. And it wasn't like I fixed upon music being my career path in school. So I got through school and then I went through college and then I absolutely despised college. And I also started needing to work when I was in college. So luckily I got the opportunity to teach from Ebenezer Premkumar of Music Garage.
Okay.
So I think back in 2013, he gave me my first job teaching the Adia branch of Music Garage.
Oh, wonderful.
So, yeah, so it started from there and then slowly started getting onto session work. And then beyond a point, I had to ditch teaching because session work was so unpredictable and, people just kept calling at random hours. And so I couldn't commit to a proper teaching schedule. And yeah, now I'm doing music full time and sometimes I'm like being forced to do like 14 hours of work in 8 hours, and
But you're loving it, right?
I love the music part of it. That I will not deny.
Yeah. You know what's a fun fact?
Yeah.
So Abby was actually my college senior.
Oh, okay. You're
John,
from Karanya.
yeah, John Knox
Oh.
also was my college senior.
Nice.
The funniest thing is that everybody chose engineering, but the funniest thing that I found is like most of them get their calling of full-time music after doing engineering. For example, let's take the case of John, right? So
Yeah.
John started playing his guitar from third year, and he was playing with me in for IIT Sarang actually.
Oh.
So it's funny. So we go all the way over there, and it's funny, like most of these musicians in India, everyone has an engineering degree, and they're like, "Here, like let's do music," because that's what I learned in 4 years of engineering. Right, Chris. So it's crazy. Like it takes guts to make a decision like that, and I'm so happy about the fact that you're doing really well as a session musician, and
thank you.
It's crazy on the type of things that you've done. But being a session musician, there is a lot of things that come into their work in terms of getting featured for different projects, featured for different artists that are established in the industry, who are just coming up. And it's like when you get featured to these projects, it's like you're branding your expertise along with theirs. Right?
Yeah.
So I just want to understand from your standpoint, how you perceive getting featured to different projects that are out there. So what is the benefits of having an artist that is, let's say, established in the industry or just starting off in the industry, getting featured in a project that you're working on?
Okay. I think one major advantage is basically your sense of credibility in a way is quite influenced by the fact that, okay, this particular artist is willing to work with you, that particular artist is willing to work with you. Because let's face it, not everyone gets a level of fame that they deserve.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah. So and it's really nice though that the people who are on the top actually recognize that, and sometimes they are also willing to like work on music that is like maybe different from what they would normally do, or maybe something unique, something out of the box. So if you can come to them with an idea that really makes them think, okay, if I do this, I wouldn't get the chance to do this otherwise. And if you're able to give them that, and if they agree to it, I think that really makes a big difference in terms of how the how their portfolio gets
recognized also.
Yeah. And also obviously the fact that okay, if you're collaborating with a bigger artist, people are definitely going to notice you a bit more.
Yeah,
there's always that whole like for like, share for share, follow for follow sort of thing going on. But I mean, the reason it's so pursued upon is because to an extent it kind of works.
Yeah.
And as long as the material is something that, the audience can enjoy, the audience thinks like, okay, so the audience can look at it two ways. Either they can look at it as, oh, this is a side of the artist I've not seen before. Or they can think of it as, oh, the artist is featuring someone else who is kind of similar to them. So they'll look to the other artist for work also, for their work also, because it's the internet generation. We're craving like, we just
like for like, follow for follow, save for save.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, true, man. I think not just about expanding their portfolio. It's like you said, the internet generation, right? Suppose if I have a particular project that I'm working on, it's like if I bring you on board, it's like your audience also get exposed to the type of music that I'm doing, and my audience gets exposed to what you're doing. So it's like the complementary branding helps in better reach. And something that I've learned out of my collaborations is that, everyone has their own set of learnings that have come out of their projects. Like, for example, if you're working with a couple of musicians that are out there, just jamming with them and just talking to them about a couple of things, just understand their life experience in a span of 5 minutes. You're like, bro, like that's amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's really nice. So in terms of, sessions that you run, I'm pretty sure that you would have done multiple collaborations with a lot of artists that that are public and that are not public, and a couple of things that are released and that are not released. So,
true.
I think you've come to a point where you could sense if the project is promising, or if the project is a red flag, or if it's a green flag, or whichever metrics that you actually go in. So with respect to how you pick your collaborations, is there something that you keep in mind before collaborating with people?
So I've realized that, in this particular scene, it's very easy to get caught up in very disingenuous hype.
Okay.
Everyone can hype themselves on social media. Everyone can portray an image of themselves that they're really not.
Yeah.
And so you can evaluate people by how they present themselves on social media and compare it to how their music actually sounds.
Okay.
And I think the ultimate barometer for whether you want to work with someone or not should be whether the music is something that you want to work on or not.
Oh, nice.
And I think keeping it solely about the music and judging it by literally nothing else actually helps a lot.
Okay.
Because apart from everything else, you can set a standard on music.
Okay. Makes sense.
You might not be able to set a standard on Instagram following or the kind of social media presence that people have, but you sure can set a stand on whether the music is good or whether the music is bad. And I'm not even telling it from like a taste perspective. Maybe this person's taste is a little different or that person's taste is a little different. It's just the way they go about the craft of music production and composing and all that. So I think that's I think sticking to that always helps because because I mean a lot of people tend to cold call you.
Okay.
And they just tend to be like, hey bro, I do this. Here's like 5 Instagram videos, check them all out, and then let's do a collab.
Okay.
And I've said no to literally all of them, or not even replied to any of them because that's not the way you reach people.
Yeah.
And I've always found that meeting people through shows or watching them perform, or being actually checking out their work and then considering whether to do it. Like for example, some people ask me if I would like to do something, and then they send me like a scratch track.
Okay.
And then if the scratch track is great, is something interesting, then I'm all in.
Okay.
And that's led to some quite interesting projects.
Oh, wonderful.
So
here's a follow-up question, Chris.
Yeah.
So basically, you've been talking about the fact of not going by the social media standard, but actually to just jump into the taste in music and the depth and quality of music that they've been working on.
Yeah.
So following up on that particular thing, has there been any instances where you've agreed to a project where you've not heard any of their projects, like nothing? They're like, Chris, I want to work with you. So how do you approach a situation like that?
I ask them how much they're willing to pay, and they stop replying, and then the world is at peace again.
But yeah, so Chris, it's amazing on certain collaborations that you've done has made a lot of waves in the industry. So with respect to independent artists, is there any particular collaborations that sticks into your mind when I say something that has made a lasting impression with you? Is there any artist that you worked with that you've enjoyed working with, or you can't say that in public, is it? Anybody that comes in your mind, because I would love to check their music out also.
Okay, this is difficult.
Okay.
Okay, an artist I collaborated with.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's not like official collaboration type thing. Yeah, but people I worked with. Okay, one person who's always been a joy to work with is Sharanya Gopinath.
Yeah, I've seen all your videos, man.
Yeah, so sometimes we've done these duo set gigs where it's just me with a guitar and her singing.
Yeah.
And we'd always pick like jazz standards and difficult songs that both of us would not have learned until it's time for the show.
Okay.
And we'd sit down and we'd do our homework, and then we'd come and meet. No rehearsal, no nothing.
On the spot.
Yeah, and we'd come and we'd practice these songs, and we'd play these songs to a show of to a restaurant of maybe like 3 people. And those would have been like some of the most fulfilling gigs I've ever played in my life.
Yeah, something that reminded me of this particular thing is the connection and the vibe with the people that you're playing with, the chemistry.
Yeah.
So the funniest thing is, like, in college, I had 2 bands that I played with, and we had amazing chemistry. The amount of chemistry that we have, like when he catches the note, I know what's the next note that he's playing.
Okay, yeah.
Like, I know the progression that's gonna come. He'll know my vocal runs over there. It's like 4 years of college can do wonders in terms of how your behavior is. So what I felt is, like, after I graduated from college and when I came to Chennai, like it's hard to find people, like 5 people or 4 people that will fulfill you like a proper band like you had in college. It's so, like, what you just said makes a lot of sense in terms of collaboration, like the chemistry and the vibe that you have with people. Like, it's just a click. It doesn't matter how much you practice, but if you click properly, I think one practice is done for a proper gig. Don't you agree with me?
I do agree. Also, coming from the session musician world, you kind of have to have this connect with everyone you work with, which is very difficult. But ultimately, I think as long as you can find a workflow that works between you and the other person, I think you're kind of sorted in that regard.
Yeah.
So some people tend to like certain things that you do. Some people want to push you and want to get something out of you. And the key is to recognizing who is what type of person, and then trying to do what's best for them and what's best for the song that they're doing.
I think you'll have to be an evolved human being to come into that state of understanding what his likes are, especially if you're
really patient.
Yeah. True, man. I think session musicians have to come into a point where the moment you start talking to people, you understand the vibe of the person, you understand what he's expecting. Yeah. And I think that takes years of understanding the type of music that people like and the direction which the industry is going. But man.
Yeah, and it also involves listening to a lot of music. Because suddenly if someone comes and tells you, hey man, I want that KT Tunstall sound. Okay. You got to know what the KT Tunstall sound is.
Yeah, true.
Or at the very least, you should be able to listen to a KT Tunstall track right then and there and, figure out what they're going for.
Yeah, that's true, man. That's really true. I think in terms of that, it's tough to be a session musician because you need to keep innovating every single day because there'll be another 10-year-old budget Chris Jason that will come along to it.
I feel bad for that guy.
But yeah, man. But above all, there are a couple of projects that I really like from your end because something that really popped out from a couple of projects. From one of the projects that you've done is the Chennai Chill Step Edition.
Yes.
The collective. The first time when I heard about this entire video coming out, I'm like, bro, like Chennai has 30 guitarists. What are you talking about?
They actually have more. A few guitarists didn't respond to the.
So I was like, 1 poster came, 2 posters came, 4 posters, 5 posters, like 20 posters already done. I'm like, bro, this many people are just living in Chennai itself. But Chris, I just want to get your perspective on this project because executing a project in the scale is not an easy job. So
yeah, it wasn't.
So I want to understand, what was your main reason for a project like this, and how did you execute in this massive scale, and a couple of your learnings that you've got from this project.
Okay,
what would you say for that?
So, I, like many other musicians, went into 2020 with a, 2020 is my year. We're gonna dominate the music scene. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. We're gonna do a lot of new things, and. One of the things I wanted to do was release my own music with a proper music video that was Back to One.
Okay.
And immediately I wanted to follow it up with a low effort project, which finally when I did it, I realized how low effort it wasn't. And so I thought, okay, we could finish this entire thing in a month. And that's why I went for, that's why I thought, okay, I knew this many guitarists in the scene. Might as well do something showcasing all the different guitarists we had. And I've already seen a bunch of these compilation videos done by guys like Utsam Manga, Jared Dines, and several others. So I just watched a bunch of them, took proper inspiration from them, and then gave a call to like, I'm guessing around 34, 35 guitarists, and 29 of them responded. And yeah. So then what followed was February is generally a busy time for musicians. And February was when I was actually doing a lot of traveling, a lot of session shows and all that. I was like going on like maybe 3 to 4 hours of sleep that entire month. And in the meantime, I was also like making calls to people, trying to figure out when they would send me their tracks.
Yeah.
And, then stitching everything together, meeting Navneet, meeting the video editor, talking to people regarding social media promotions. And yeah, it was quite a truckload of work, but then I'm glad it kind of paid off in the end. So
yeah, so like you said, you found a lot of inspiration from Utsav Manga and Jared Dines over there.
yeah.
What this reminds me is like, when you look at the Indian music scene and over there, the first thing that people come to mind is Mumbai, Bangalore.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that they have. So like you said, if somebody says that we have like proper professional guitarists in Chennai, people are like, bro, what are you talking about, man? Like you'll find like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 done. Like that's it. Not one, not more.
Yeah.
So when I saw the amount of collaboration of 30 different guitarists coming into a single track, it's massive. It's massive to do a project like this. But towards the end of the day, when you finish executing the project, when you look back from the start of the execution to the end of the execution, so is there some way that you could have better done the project in terms of management or in terms of production or in terms of shots? So if there's something that you can advise your younger self with respect to the execution of this project, is there something that comes into your mind?
Okay, first thing is don't write a huge email detailing everything you need. No one's going to read it.
Okay.
and two, I felt that some of the processes could have been better streamlined had I done some of the work by myself.
Okay.
Meaning with regard to the video editing, with regard to some of the, with regard to making a bounce of the track so that I could better facilitate the mix engineer and all that.
Yeah.
So just a few things on the technical side. And I kind of realized, okay, if you need to make a video of this thing, and if you want to improve the quality going forward, these are the things that you will definitely need to do in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And a few mistakes were made. And I've also noticed mistakes like this being made in some of the videos that I referenced when checking it out. And some people had some things to say. Some people had some really weird criticisms, like why the guy making it is Christian, so he called Christian guitarists.
What?
Yeah, things like that. And there were a lot of people telling me there weren't any girl guitarists, and they were disappointed in that.
Okay.
And frankly, I didn't know any girl guitarists at the time.
In Chennai?
But afterwards, I got to know of one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who is it?
Her name is Vagu Malan.
Okay, from Chennai itself, is it?
From Chennai.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, and there are definitely a few more up and coming talents. And with a project like this, they're like, oh, you said ultimate Chennai guitarist, so that means all the Chennai guitarists. Why didn't you bring this guy? Why didn't you bring that guy?
Yeah, true.
And
but nobody understands the effort for doing something like this.
I mean, see, I think the problem here is no one can say anything about anything unless they actually visualize it for themselves.
True. Very true.
So until you give them a product like, hey, here is a video featuring so many people, most people weren't even able to like visualize a thing like this for themselves.
This massive stuff, yeah.
Yeah. And so once they do visualize it, and once they say, oh, this is the thing, then they are able to say something about it. But until then, they would not be able to give you critical feedback when you need it the most, which is when you're making the project.
Okay, that makes sense, man.
And I'm not mad at people criticizing. Criticism is very necessary. I'm just saying that okay, some of your criticism is valid, and we can work on it if I do something like this again. But some of the things you said are just
I think people can't fathom the massive scale in which this is being done. Because the first thing that people who have not dealt with audio engineering that they do is, okay, 30 videos, we paste 30 videos together and that's done, right? But the biggest thing is to find that right mix of all these 30 guitarists into one. And I think you would have spent a lot of time just to mix and master this entire thing.
I am very thankful to Navneet Balachandran for spending 2 all-nighters with me. Just to
Big
get
shout
this whole
out to
thing,
Navneet.
yeah, just to get this whole thing sorted. And yeah, because we wanted to make sure that we were representing everyone as accurately as possible. And so unless it was absolutely necessary, we didn't touch the guitar tracks as much as possible.
Yeah.
We just made sure to level it so that everyone's levels were like
The same.
you know, somewhat the same.
Matching,
so that yeah, and then it just flowed together cohesively as a track. That was like our main goal when mixing it. And most importantly, deciding the order was quite an ordeal for me, because I needed variety.
Yeah.
And
Different styles and then bringing it in different orders. Yeah.
Yeah, so the video went on for like over 11 minutes.
Okay.
And I knew that unless I had a proper variety, people are not going to
Listen to the entire thing.
Yeah.
I think curation of the order actually has a lot of effect in terms of viewership. But yeah, man, I'm glad that it came out pretty well, because it's like it was not, if you're like concentrating on a particular guitarist, it's just not more than 30 to 40 seconds. Like it's like, you know, that when the next guitar is coming, it's like you're kind of engaged throughout the entire thing, even till the end. And I think you would get video analytics from YouTube about the percentage of people that would have seen the entire thing. Oh, I think you would understand there would be a majority of people that would come towards the end. Majority.
And I designed this in mind, not as a piece of music, but more as a novelty.
Okay.
Like, okay, let's fit so many people into one track and see what happens.
Nice.
Rather than designing it as a piece of music. And the fact that, so I think it's at around 8.4K views right now.
Yeah.
And for 8,400 people to check out a guitar video
is something.
Yeah. I count it as a win, man. I'm happy.
That's good, man. But congrats on this entire thing, man. It's a really nice video that everyone should check out if they're in the Chennai music scene. But I'm hoping to see some more coming out of your way in the future or near future or far future, whenever it is. But yeah, man. So something other than Chennai Collective that have stood out is basically your biggest collaboration that people have seen, that is being a part of Arrived. A.R. Rahman's Arrived. So when you look at Arrived itself, and when you look at the entire YouTube web series itself, it's like a massive production of that entire show, where you have not ordinary artists, you have like proper established musicians who are prodigies that come into the show with their own expertise. And it's not just a single genre of music that they are specialized with. You find instrumentalists that have made a lot of milestones in their life, and then you have musicians that are over there. On top of that, you have Rahman sir, and you have the other panelists that are over there. It's like massive amount of expertise that is just in a circled radius of, let's say, 5 meters. So in a situation like that, where collaboration at the finest have to be the epitome of your entire work. So can you tell me a couple of your learnings and your experiences from being in a show of this massive scale?
Okay. So I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Arrived was rehearsed and shot in the span of 1 month.
Okay.
So it was a really hectic 1 month, because we did it in 2 phases, and each phase would have like a rehearsal phase.
Okay.
Then a pre-production phase, and then a shoot phase.
All right.
Okay. So your rehearsal phase would probably go for like 10 days or so.
Okay.
And then your pre-production phase would take anywhere from 2 to 5 days.
Okay.
And then your shoot phase would go for like maybe anywhere from 2 to 5 days. So we had 2 phases like that.
2 phases like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so something that stood out way beyond the vocals is the entire arrangement of the songs.
Yeah.
Like I still have those riffs in my mind. Da-da, da-da.
Oh yeah.
Like it was brilliantly crafted for such wonderful Eastern songs? Like who is responsible for these riffs?
The man responsible is Mr. Aditya Pushkarna.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah,
Like I didn't expect that kind of a riffs coming out of a
yeah,
very
he's an insane producer, and
yeah.
yeah, he came up with some really interesting ideas for all the songs, and whether people had fun listening to it or not, we had fun playing it. That I can say for
Yeah,
sure. And,
dude, it was
yeah.
super catchy, man. Like,
Oh, nice.
see, I come from a Gen background, like where I like the tan 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 tan.
Yeah.
tan. So I was like listening to this particular like mainstream songs with this kind of a riff. This is very interesting.
So
like,
yeah, so the brief we were given was that we could rearrange the songs to our liking, and the thing is, most of the people in the band were actually like these super enthusiastic guys who were like, okay, let's try this. Why don't we try this kind of thing? Why don't we try like a quintuplet swing? Why don't we try like arpeggiators or like a lot of random things.
okay.
So, and all the songs were quite diverse. So we had like 15 songs for the first phase and 40 songs for the second phase. So we had to go crazy. Otherwise, it would be really hard to distinguish between songs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Rather than playing like four chords or two chords that are coming in these songs, like
Yeah.
having a differentiation in those riffs where like it stood off pretty well. I was not a big fan of the music production with respect to the instruments, but I think they did a good job with respect to the vocals that were coming in. But Chris, in a situation like this, like you said, people were going crazy with multiple ideas. They were like saying, we should try this, we should try that, because in an environment like that, everyone's a maestro. Like everyone knows what they're talking about. It's not like someone's like made up or they just faking it till they make it. But in a situation like that, this is where your true value of collaborating as an artist comes across, because some ideas you take in, some ideas you need to understand that's bullshit, and then you have to either take the best things out of it and take out the things that are redundant. So with respect to your experience in a show like this, in this massive scale, with respect to collaboration as a better artist, what have you learned out of this entire thing?
Okay, so addressing your particular point, I think one thing every musician eventually has to come to a point of understanding is how best to serve the song.
Yeah.
And to me, the song is a sacred thing. And you can only mess with the song so much until it becomes something completely unrecognizable. For some people, you would say that is the point. And yeah, you can definitely
postmodern jukebox.
Yeah, kind of like that. But I would say that you can only go so far with those kind of rearrangements or harmonic substitutions. Stylizing it differently, putting a different genre or whatever. So you kind of have to like defer to the song, or at the very least defer to the band leader.
True.
So in a case like that, we kind of all had a space to like throw different ideas. We had points where we were stuck and didn't know how to progress to the next thing. So that time, either deferring to the song or deferring to the band leader always worked.
Okay. So it was either Aditya Pushkarna or the song itself.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think also you might, the thing is these arrangements are quite short.
Okay.
So the longest a song might have gone would have been like 5 minutes.
Okay.
So it was important to introduce a lot of variety into these things, especially because I think one thing that arrived was praised for a lot was the fact that the arrangements were like it only focused on the music. It didn't focus on drama between the contestants or your usual reality.
Very true. Very true. Very true.
So we kind of had to like really go crazy with it, and we had to make sure that even if the arrangement went for 5 minutes, it still felt like the best and the most heart-stopping 5 minutes of your life.
Yeah.
So in that sense, we kind of we did have space to go crazy, but also now and then we were like, okay, we kind of have to rein it in and bring it back.
Yeah.
And also, since the band is big, there were times where someone else could go crazy where we could just be chilling and play something. Or I mean, there were a lot of times when I didn't need to play anything, and I just used to look at the other band members and be like, wow, look at that.
Yeah. No, but there is a beauty in playing just enough.
Yeah,
underplaying and overplaying, just coming in that middle sweet spot, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's a skill that everybody learns through years of experience, not
Very
right
true.
out of the bat. So I
Yeah.
think simplicity and just playing just enough is something that it takes years to master.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
It takes like years of playing music badly just to.
Yeah, playing the right notes at the right time. You know,
Yeah.
the first person that comes to my mind when I explain this particular thing is Keba.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, like so simple, so minimalist. Like, how did you bring it over there? You know, it's amazing on how he, you know, takes his art to a different level to make it very simple, very relatable, very catchy, and very easy to understand when he plays over there. You know,
Yeah.
at a particular section of the song, he was like playing Caesar's 4. I'm like, oh, spicy.
Yeah. He's one of the guys who like really knows what to do where.
Yeah.
And I think that just comes from years of recording guitars for songs,
Yeah.
figuring out how guitar parts work in the context of a full arrangement, and
Yeah.
he's just a master at what he does. So
Yeah. I think
I've
I think
shamelessly ripped off a lot of things from him.
no wonder people call you Budget Kiba, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, Chris, so coming to my final question for you, you know, like I'm excited to see what's coming in store for the future because if for a person who has done all these kind of collaborations and individual projects, I'm pretty sure there'll be something that is coming up in the coming months and coming years. So off the top of the mind with respect to you, what you can disclose and what you can't disclose, what can we expect in the coming months?
Okay. So as of now, especially during the last 2-3 months, there have been a lot of film projects that I've worked on. So yeah, those will be coming out soon, and I'll probably be announcing them once as when they come out. Because there are some big ones, and there are some which are quite close to me because some of my good friends are the music directors for that for those projects. So I really can't wait to see them come out. Beyond that, I recently did like a lesson video of sorts.
Okay.
And
that Christmas one.
Yeah, that one.
Dude, it was so nice, man. I'm like, bro, when you're talking about that swing and when you're like increasing the speed of the swing, I'm like, this is pretty interesting because what you said is very true. You know, like when you're talking about that second note swing where if it's coming fast or not, and when you're increasing the entire speed of that entire thing, it comes as a standard 4/4 towards the end of the day. It sounds like a standard.
It sounds like it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if people understand to the level of detail that you talk about, but it's very nice to see how you break down certain things in terms of how certain songs are being structured and how it's being written specifically to match that tone and the genre of music and the feeling that the listeners will have. And it's nice to see how people break down music like that. And I'm actually looking forward to see what's next coming from your set of things.
Yeah. So I have plans for like 1-minute versions of this, like breaking down smaller concepts. Okay. And those are just for Instagram and just to because I've noticed that I'm followed by a lot of guitarists on Instagram. Surprise. But so a lot of them have questions regarding this.
Okay.
And I do Q&As from time to time, and a lot of people come in with like theory Q&As and all that. And there's only so much you can explain on an Instagram story. So I think doing something like this where, with the whole motion graphics thing and being able to have like visual and sound cues to help the person see what they hear and hear what they see. I think being able to make that connection is quite important. Yeah. So I have plans for like maybe around 4 or 5 of these. So as and when I get free time, I'm going to sit on them and work them out and churn them out as quickly as I can. Beyond that, I've also been working on a full-length album.
Oh, nice. Instrumental album?
Yeah, completely instrumental.
How many songs?
Anywhere from 9 to 11.
Oh, okay. That's a pretty big album, actually. So, are you at the time to disclose the name of the album?
Not really.
Not really.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thing is, I worked on the themes and everything. We're just in the process of writing the entire music, like structuring the music for it. we've probably gotten the vibe and the ideas we want down.
Yeah.
So this is basically a collaboration between me and Michael Timothy. And yeah, Michael Timothy, insane producer. He's heavy into, nice, great bass player. He's also into this whole electronic music kick. So he's done a lot of experimenting, and so we've been trying to like combine the whole solo guitar thing, like your Pliny, your Nick Johnston, your Eric Johnson, Joe Satriani, that kind of thing. We're trying to combine that with electronic music and see what happens.
Nice. That's an interesting project. Well, when are you expected to release this? 2022?
I thought this thing could be done in a month.
But it's not.
And it's been 6 months.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'm like very ashamed of myself.
Lockdown 2022.
Yeah.
You can title the album like that.
Yeah, I hope not. But the thing is, at least so far, the little music that we've done so far, it seems quite promising. So I'm like really excited to work on it. I've also enlisted Susanna Epen. She's been like a long time collaborator, and she's helping me a lot with the artwork and the visual design for everything. So I don't know. I think I got like super ambitious, and I'm like, I'm going to make the music for it, and I'm going to make music videos, and all the music videos are going to be like edited visualizer animation type stuff.
Nice.
And and then all this paying work came up, and then so now everything's in the back burner right now, and I'm just waiting for my work to get over so that I can sit at
this. So basically when you start working, I don't think you'll be responding to any DMs anymore.
Yeah. Definitely not. I'm already bad at the moment.
Yeah. But thank God I got you over here, man. But Chris, it's such an honor to actually have you over here and just talk to you about this entire journey that you've had so far.
Same here, man. Thank you for having me.
And it's crazy, it's in terms of the learnings that I've got from you, especially as well as the people that are listening to it. In terms of you yourself as a brand and endorsing another person that you're featuring with and collaborating better in the industry is something that is a major takeaway from this specific episode. And I just want to thank you for coming for the show, man. It means a lot, and I can't wait to actually listen to your work coming up soon. And it's insane that you're collaborating with crazy artists and the type of music that's out there, and I'm eagerly waiting for those to release. And hopefully once those at least come out, we'll have this show again and we'll break down the entire thing and say, hey bro, what's the strategy, man?
Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely.
Yeah, you take care, man. Thanks for this all.
No problem. Thank you for having me.